Our modern Western culture places little to no value on the power of our nightly dreams
to inspire, shift, and reorganize our lives.
This podcast demands a deep reconsideration of
the role our dreams play on our path to a more vital
and meaningful life. The following is living proof
of the life-affirming power of dreams
to affect change
and redirect the trajectory
of our inner and outer lives. These
are our dreams that shape us.
Dreams that shape us.
I invite you to close your eyes for a minute. That is if you're not driving. For the love of God, don't close your eyes if you're driving right now. And take a few intentional grounding breaths with me. In through the nose. And while you do so, scan your body. Bring your awareness down into your body. Feel the boundaries of your skin as you exhale. Feel it cascading through all the corners of your body. And bring your awareness on your next inhale to all the systems at work that we don't even need to think about. Your heart, your digestion, your nervous system, your adrenal system, just about every single system we do not need to think about. They just do what they know to do. And I encourage you to stay present with your body while I continue to speak. Our bodies are magnificent creatures. If there is anything that I learned having watched my 2 kids grow in the womb of my lady, is that the body carries an ancient wisdom and an instinctual knowing that should never cease to amaze you. For 9 months, my partner and I watched as we literally did basically nothing but wait, while her body, without any needed conscious input from her, took my sperm and her egg and completely and wondrously created my 2 favorite humans. In many ways, we are literally at the mercy of trusting that our bodies know unconsciously what to do and how to carry out all these tasks and processes. What a gift it is to not have to know how to beat your own heart. What a gift it is to eat exquisitely tasting food and not have to agonize for the next several hours while you think your way through its digestion. I mean, can you imagine? Maybe take a second to give a deep bow of gratitude for all the ways that our bodies do so much for us that we don't ever have to think about. And I don't think until writing this that I realized just how much trust we are putting on the body to simply do what it knows best to do. That's a lot. That's a lot of trust. Maybe take one more breath and feel the body and the intimate and tender way that it holds our awareness within it. You can surrender deeper into this trust for the deep ancient wisdom that is so alive within your blood and bones. It's magical. But trust is a two-way street. And while these processes don't really need any conscious input from us to carry them out, they do depend on our lifestyle choices in order to operate at their greatest capacity. And when the body wisdom needs to communicate its needs to us, or to alert us to ways we are harming it, or give us suggestions on how we can nourish it, dreams are a really, really powerful and gorgeous way that it can communicate to us. And this is exactly what this story from our guest, Angela Grillo, is about to showcase so beautifully. Angela shares with us her story of facing some challenging health issues that her Western doctors weren't exactly sure how to diagnose with any success. Then her body wisdom starts offering her a whole series of dreams that seem to be laying out a whole dietary regimen to aid her in giving her body what it needs. It's absolutely fascinating, and a few of the dreams are instructing her in ways that she couldn't have possibly known about, and in ways that she's still trying to get clear on. Jason and her also explore how to discern between direct orders from the body, like she's receiving, and when food is simply used as metaphor, which is used so often and so beautifully in dreams. They even talk briefly about how to identify prodromal dreams, which are dreams that are telling of an issue in your body that you might not even be aware of yet, because the symptoms haven't surfaced yet or have been too subtle for you to have noticed yet. So let's take one more deep breath. Really anchor that into your body. Fill your body with all of your precious love. Hold it. Hold yourself. Hold your body in that breath. And exhale all of that love throughout all the corners of your body. Exhale audibly. Thank you. Now let's start the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dreams That Shape Us podcast. I'm your co-host, J.M. DeBoard. We have a guest with us today who's going to help us to dig into a type of dream that could be very important for our listeners because it involves their health, how to be more aware of their health, how to make their health better, and specifically through food choices and dreams that can tell us about, ways that we can better our diet, ways that we can take things into ourselves that are beneficial, what to look for in our dreams that offer this wisdom, advice, and information. Dreams can have a lot to say about what's happening with the body. Edgar Cayce said that the body-based dreams are the most common type, and that there's a lot that you can learn and benefit from them. So our guest has had a lot of these kinds of dreams, and she's applied them to her life. She's worked these dreams and pulled forward the little nuggets and morsels of information that has helped her with her health and with her overall well-being. Our guest is Angela Grillo, and she has, like I said, had this specific advice about diet, about health, nutrition, that have come to her in her dreams in really unique and fascinating ways. She has a lot that she's going to be able to share with us today. So welcome to the show, Angela. Let's start by giving the listeners a taste of who you are and what you're about. We'll drop them into wherever you think is a good place. Before going on air, you were telling me that you're originally from Michigan. So maybe that's a good place to start, or wherever you feel like is the right place to start.
All righty. Thank you so much, Jason. I'm really grateful to be here, and I'm just really thankful to be able to come and share these really big, transformative dreams with your community. Because even for myself, I could have missed them. Sometimes looking at like the bigger, more fantastical dreams, you kind of miss like sometimes the mundane or these ones that just feel like waking life. So I really appreciate you taking the time and having me on the show to be able to work them even deeper and kind of bring them all together and see what else is there waiting for us. So yeah, I am from Michigan. I lived in Michigan for the first 18 years of my life, and I knew that I wanted to go somewhere and do something with my life creatively. I studied acting and theater in an art school from 7th grade to 12th grade, and had an amazing teacher who helped me see that I could go to college and study more and take the creative path, which I did. I moved to California to go to school. I went to Cal Arts in 1999, and that there was a big chunk of my life there for the next 18 years, where just studying theater after school. I ended up starting directing and acting more and producing and developing shows. At that time, I'm going really fast, but cut to being like 28. And that is when I met my dream worker. So before 28 kind of feels like just leading up to finally starting to really find myself and what this life was sort of meant to have in store for me or to unfold into. I also study astrology a little bit, and at that time was my Saturn return. And so the first Saturn return at that age is kind of having you look at, what are you going to do the rest of your life? And at the time, I was just trying to be an actor, and that was kind of it. And I was always a creative person. I've always wanted to write children's books and make something more from like the art that I was seeing in my head. And I always journaled. I did dream a lot at that point, and I wrote down my dreams, but didn't have an avenue to do anything with them. And so at 28, I had a big dream about moving. I had recently gotten a divorce, and in this dream, there was this big studio apartment that was like a dance studio. And so I shared that dream with a friend, and she said, "Oh, you have to meet this woman, Etya. She's a dream worker." And I didn't know what a dream worker was at that time. And I said, okay. She was like, maybe she'll figure out this dream for you. Maybe it can show you where you need to move. And so that was really the beginning of, I guess, the woman I am today. Because since I have been working with dreams, I did go to graduate school and continued to study theater and performance. But I was using dreams to create the pieces. Along with, before grad school, I was working with Etya and another collaborative partner, Susan Ackerman-Joseph, and we had created work from dreams up to that point for like 7 years. And then where I'm at now, after graduate school, I was ready to leave California and leave LA and the Bay Area, and I moved to Louisiana. So I've been here now for 7 years, and the dreams, I was working as a dream worker, working with clients. So I did start my own business. Still feels very creative. I'm not making art necessarily anymore, but it's definitely creative work. And if you think of life as an art, we are definitely still creatively working our lives, I think. And then, I was working on developing more of my business a few years ago with my dream worker, Etya. And this is when the food dreams started happening. And so 3 years ago, what was really happening in my life, my personal waking life, is I wasn't feeling well at all. My stomach was always hurting a lot of pain, a lot of intolerances to food, and weight gain. I turned 40 as well, and so a lot of hormonal changes, and all of it like happening at once. And it makes it really hard to get work done and have energy when you're fatigued all the time or fighting inflammation and not knowing what it's from, especially when you feel like you eat relatively well. And I do yoga all the time. I do movement. I dance. So I think I take pretty good care of myself. And that's when the first like food dream came. And I really started to, I had to start looking at, because I followed dreams so long in my life, I knew the dreams were telling me something more about my health. And so I just dove in and started dissecting them and trying to relate to them and researching them.
Digesting them.
Yeah, digesting them, exactly.
Which is what really working a dream can mean, because there's the original experience of the dream and what you can recall from it. You write it down in your journal. And then there's the working part of the dream, means that you take it a piece at a time and look for what it is trying to offer or show you. So in a sense, you're digesting it, you're working it through your system. And then the sort of savory nutrients in the dream can become a greater part of you. Which is what you've told me in your dreams happened as you worked them. You found so much more information in them. But before we get to that part, I'd like to find out a little more about what got you, like 28 years old was this turning point in your life. A lot of big things happened. And you mentioned the Saturn return, where you take the things that you've learned for the first, big chunk of your life, the first 28 years, and they get digested too. So then you go into this kind of the second part of your life, or big phase of your life, and you try to apply the things that you've learned during the first phase. And oftentimes it means leaving behind old patterns, learning new things about yourself, allowing new things about yourself to come forward. I'm wondering how your dreams prepared you for that. You didn't just at 28 years old, a light bulb goes on and you go, oh, hey, dreams are really interesting. I think I'll find out more about this. You were already interested in them. You were journaling them. You were paying attention to them. So I'm curious what got you, what made that light come on in your head, in your heart, that said, I want to pay attention to my dreams. I mean, dream journaling is not something that everyone does. And there's often something that happens formatively in your life that makes you interested enough in the first place to keep a dream journal and to pay attention to them. So maybe we can take listeners back a little further into your biography to when you first became interested in dreams and why.
Sure. I honestly do not know the exact time. I know as a kid, I was really imaginative and always wrote stories and always acted them out. And then, of course, going to an art school was also really helpful and wonderful. But I mean, I do remember during undergrad that there was always this feeling of longing for something more than just being an actor. And I was interested in directing, and I did do some directing. And based on the dreams I have now and from as far back as I can remember, my dreams are so visual. And they also are very like body dreams, like you mentioned. Like I can feel, I can see, I can sense like everything in a dream. They are like movies. And they're inspirational as well. So I think, going back, that's why I would write them down, because I knew there was, these gifts in them, this richness that I could bring to my artistic life. I definitely don't remember ever breaking them down psychospiritually or anything like that. I just knew that they were important, and to write them and feel into them maybe throughout my day, instead of saying, wow, I had some big dream and I want to forget it. Even if it was scary, I would write it down and sense that there was something there, and kind of hold it or take it with me. And so after graduating, I really do think that there was this longing or a holding on to that there's something more out there for me. And once I got divorced and really realized, like, okay, that is not the path for me. That person was not the path for me. I also sensed that there was more to my creative and career life as well. And so, yes, that moment that I had the dream that would then get me to meet my dream worker, I was moving into my own place, like as a solo single woman. I usually had always had roommates, or was married and, lived with a partner. And so it was a really big time of change for me. And the dream, like the sensation of that dream of being in this big, airy, dance space, but it wasn't a dance space, it felt so great. And I was like, if I could dream that, how do I step into that? How do I become that?
Yeah. Yeah. And the dream actually came true in a way, right?
Yeah.
Because the apartment that you ended up moving into was a lot like the place that you originally dreamed about.
Absolutely. It so was. So I found the apartment after meeting Etya and working the dream. I found the studio apartment in Koreatown in Los Angeles, and it had big picture windows. It was open space. I danced in there all the time. I did creative stuff in there all the time. Yeah, it even the like paint color made me feel like I was in a dance studio.
Yeah. Talk about embodying yourself into this time and place. Like you dream about yourself in this place, and then you find yourself in a space that's eerily like it, as if you actually dreamed about that apartment before you were led there. But not just a physical space, but the personal space that you moved into seemed to be foretold by the dream, and these greater ways that you were embodying deeper aspects of yourself and expressing them, which also came through in your dream life. You started using your dreams for your creative pursuits. You wrote a play, and piece by piece, you turned to your dreams for help with that. Can you tell us more about that experience?
Yes. So when I met Etya, she had a play that she had always wanted to write and develop. And so she knew I was a director and into theater. So when we talked about my dream, she said, do you want to barter and you help me write this play? And we'll use both of our dreams to create it. And so we did. We started working together. We worked together for the next 7 years on a very specific play called Box Window Door. We also ended up getting a third partner, which there was a dream of like a boat with 3 women, not just the 2 of us. And so then we found, we paired up with Susan Ackerman Joseph, who ended up helping develop the plays, because there were different stages of it and increments of it. There was box, window, door, then there was box, then there was window, and then there was prayer. And so she did a lot of the sound design as well. And so for 7, and that was like a beautiful, fruitful time of not only learning about myself and who I was deeper, but I was also, using those dreams creatively to write and develop these pieces of theater. So we used the dreams to guide us of how we worked together as a trio, because the dreams would show us like, hey, your ego's going to get in the way here, or, this is how you can work out, communicating with each other, because things come up when you collaborate creatively with anyone. And then we use dreams, like Etia used a lot of her dreams for like the dialogue and the text. And I would dream of the lighting and the mood and the textures and, more of the production aspects and even staging as well. And then when we actually hired actors to play these roles, we worked with the actors and their dreams, and we dreamt for the characters. And so dreams were all over it.
Oh, you're going to have to tell us more about what it means to dream about the character.
Oh, yeah. So we worked with actors at the time, and worked with their dreams. So they would, be already working in this role, and they would then go and put the intention to dream from the character or the character's perspective. And then they would have a dream, and then they'd bring it to rehearsals. So we literally had like dream work as part of our rehearsals. And then we would work the dream with them from the perspective of they are dreaming as, if the character's name is Ruth, they were dreaming as Ruth, not Angela, right? And so then we would do the dream work. And of course, there's always a layer that they're themselves and who they are. That's always going to be there as an actor playing a role. But we would try to get them to be in the dream and go back into the dream, use embodied imagination into the dream, find out what the character is feeling and sensing, and bring that to the stage.
That's really interesting. And I've heard that there are acting programs that teach this. Some of the biggest, most, popular, most famous acting programs out there have incorporated dream work in as part of their training process, because you can dream from the perspective of the character and more fully embody that character as an actor. So when you step out on the stage or the camera rolls, you aren't just you anymore. You are being this character. And when you can dream about it, then it kind of more fully puts you into the space where the character is coming from. Because while you're in the dream, you're experiencing yourself as that character. So that sounds like what you were doing with the dream work with your actors.
Yes, exactly that.
That's
Really,
really
if you think about our own dreams, right? If you're dreaming of a teacher or a king or a queen or an animal, even once you've dreamt it, I believe you are everyone and everything in the dream. So like once you've dreamt it, yes, if you can go back into it and embody that, like you have actually felt what it's like to be in their body and in their, maybe their mind or in their perspective.
Seeing from behind their eyes. Yeah. So you get up to, you've already had this interest in dreams because you're a creative, imaginative person, and dreaming and imagination and creativity, they all kind of go hand in hand. So you get into this phase of your life where you meet someone, Etia. What's her last name?
Etia Ruth.
Okay, that's just for Alyssa. Is she still in LA?
She is in Philadelphia, and her website is etiadreams.com. She does dream work, and she does classes and workshops.
Okay, listeners in Philly, if you want to, dive deeper into your own dream life, then you've got someone there who comes recommended. And so tell us then, you get to this point in your life where your dreams started to give you some advice about your health, and it didn't do it in the traditional sort of way that I've seen in dream interpretation, where there's something that's like a more direct message from your dreams. It might point to an area of your body where you're having difficulty, or it might say something that's more specific. You had to take that content to Etia and work it to get the message out of it. And it begins with that wild dream that you had about sinking your feet into the well, you tell the story about that dream, because this really gets the ball rolling, and it's a fascinating dream. So why don't you narrate that for us?
Sure. So this was back in 2021, so about 3 years ago, and Etia and I were doing like some deep dives into our dreams at the time, really building and rebranding our businesses together. And I was also having health issues, weight gain, fatigue, suffering from all of these things that no Western medicine doctor could pinpoint. And so it was there in the space that I was working and dreaming. I did not actually ask the dream specifically to show me what was going on, which, is always a good idea. But during this time, so I have this dream. I'm sitting in a living room, and it's a big house. It's like an open house. The doors behind me, and then the couch. I'm facing the kitchen, and I'm sitting, and I'm pretty sure it's like my friend Paul's house. And Paul is like a brother, and we're always talking about our health and everything we can do to make our lives richer. And my feet are in limestone. So the limestone covers the entire floor from the front door all the way into the kitchen. And I know I'm thinking in my head that Paul should be coming back, and, he's going to come back and see me with my feet just like it was up to like my ankles.
Yeah. So not just on the limestone, your feet are sunk down into it.
And the floor, it's not just like lightly covered, like maybe a half a foot deep. And if anyone has ever had like their driveway paved, or, there's a lot of stones that come with making something that deep. And so my feet are just soaking, or just like in this limestone. And so Etia and I knew this was a big dream, because it covered the entire house, right? And it was really beautiful. Like, you could kind of see, it almost looked like waves. If you like were sitting in where I was sitting on that couch and looking, it looked like it just kind of came in like water or waves from the front door into the kitchen. So we worked this dream using embodied imagination. And
tell our listeners what that means. Just give them more of an idea. What is embodied imagination?
Sure. Robert Bosnak created embodied imagination. You go back into a dream and become, whatever the aspects are. You can go into a cup of water. You can go into the tree. You can go into another person. So it's just a way of working dreams that you slow everything down, and you go in past what our ego perspective thinks it might be, and you allow your body to become the other.
So if you dream about a tree, you become the tree. and
Yeah.
you see and feel and hear and taste and smell every sense that you can bring to the experience from the perspective of the tree, as if you are the tree, which sounds like you already were prepared for this in a way, because you had this experience of preparing for acting roles by rehearsing a character from a story and seeing and experiencing the story from their perspective. So let's take the listeners further into how you worked that dream to get the specific information about what limestone. There was a message in there about that you pulled out from the fact that it was limestone, and pick up from there.
Yeah. So once I was in it, the limestone really became really soothing and soft and healing. It was not jagged or rough. So as we then started discussing this dream of what aspect about this could be healing and coming up through my feet, right? And feet of, what I stand upon, or like, even with feet, like your acupressure points, like you feel everything through it. So something is coming. And so we start digging into like, what is limestone characteristics, right? And we come to find out in our research, like it's composed of calcium carbonate, or a combination of calcium and magnesium. And we had been talking about my health, right? Like it was there. So to us, it was like my body needed magnesium and needed a very specific type of magnesium, like a combination. And magnesium is like the mother mineral. And so this was the first dream that really kind of in this very interesting way started giving me the tips and hints at what my body needed for my health journey. And it makes sense to me that magnesium would be the first one.
What did that do for you? What was your body telling you by giving you this information?
Sure. So I did find, I have my best friend, Leah Votro, is an herbalist. So I also took that information to her, and she said, try, this specific magnesium cholate, which is like a blend of them. And I started taking that at night. I started sleeping better. My anxiety started going away. I became more regular. And so I knew, okay, let's keep talking to the dreams now and see what they say about, further health dreams.
So it starts with recognizing that the limestone is made of magnesium and calcium carbonate, and that there was actually a message that your body was asking you for more of that. And when you started taking it as a supplement, following the advice from the dream of not just any magnesium supplement, you needed a certain combination. It makes it bioavailable. The magnesium, you can take a supplement, and if there's not the other things in there that are needed for the magnesium to absorb into your body, then you're not going to get very far with it. It's not going to do the benefit that you need.
Exactly.
Calcium carbonate, by the way, is used a lot with magnesium supplements as a sort of delivery system for it. So what a fascinating way that your dream makes you aware that, it tells you, but not directly. It doesn't like point to a shelf and show you a magnesium supplement and say, shine a spotlight on it or something. It says, you need this, or a doctor hands you a bottle and says, here, instead you had to work the dream through the process of embodying it, which was already powerfully present in the dream of your feet being immersed in this sort of liquidy substance, which when you said that it felt like kind of liquidy, I'm sitting there thinking, wow, because the magnesium hits your stomach, and what environment is it in now? It's in a liquidy environment. And you're in a home, which can is a kind of a classic symbol for the body. It can mean other things, but the home itself can symbolize your body because your mind, your consciousness lives within your body. So the dream takes that and says, well, I'm going to show you inside of a home to show you the life that you're having within your body. But it wasn't your home. It was your friend Paul's home, which suggests that he was having some kind of an influence on you. There was maybe some kind of quality or characteristic of him that was being brought into the dream in that indirect sort of symbolic way by showing you inside of his home. Do you have any idea about why?
I would probably say like the taking action part. Like here I am just sitting on this sofa, right? Sitting on the couch and soaking my feet in it. And him and I have many conversations about like, what kind of workouts are you doing? How are you taking care of yourself? What are you eating? Because he's like an inner masculine to me, I think it would be like, hey, here you go. Get on your feet and like take action in this direction.
Very interesting. And that your background with each other, the way that you've already had a history of talking about things related to your, health and well-being, it sounds like the dream chose a really good place and person to help you with that subject because he was already associated in your mind with it. Okay. Yeah. Wow.
And now, and I got to add one thing though, but why wasn't it my own home? Right. Like I think some other dreams have gotten my attention of not feeling at home in my own body. Not feeling comfortable in my own body, not feeling, comfortable in my own skin. And I think that goes beyond the physical. I think that goes into places of self-worth and confidence. And, but yeah, I really do like looking back on it now, I wasn't in my own home. And I do want to get to that holistic lifestyle, right? Having a holistic view and way of being, and not just with an H, but like a WH, like becoming whole. I think that matters. Like, that, yes, that was a starting off place. And I, without knowing it, did not feel at home in my own body at that time.
I love how you added the W to holistic and bringing the idea in of becoming whole, because when you break down the reasons why we dream, the overarching one is this process of becoming the person that you are, what Carl Jung called the individuation process, becoming you. And your dreams are very, very much a part of that process. It's a cycle of dreaming by night and then responding by day to what you dreamed, whether you remember it or not. A lot of what you experience internally by day is shaped by what happened at night in your dreams. And then your dreams pick up on how you've responded, and then the cycle continues. So by day and by night, there's this cycle of becoming. It's often shown in dream imagery of going upstairs or of building a home, which is kind of like building your life, or moving into a new home, moving into a new place in your life symbolically. But that process of becoming whole, I found, is shown in dreams as a spiral. And you can be spiraling up to talk about, the ways that you're building your life up, or spiraling down to speak to or symbolize the ways that you're going down within yourself and discovering more about who you are. So it's really interesting what you've brought into the discussion about your insight about why it wasn't your home, why it was Paul's, but also the fact that you've had this thing about really being comfortable in your own skin. And the dream took you into somebody else's home as a representation of the way that the influence that he's having on you, of like you said, taking action, this very kind of masculine oriented idea, instead of just sitting back and luxuriating, which that's just fine too. But also the other half of it is, what are you going to do with this information? And you put it to use. You pulled the information out of the dream by working it in this embodied, imaginative sort of way. And then that gave you specific information that you were able to use that ended up being beneficial. Your body told you in the dream what it needed, and then you took action and found that it was accurate and that there was more. Now I would imagine, I mean, if it were me and I've had this revelation of like, oh my goodness, my dreams are like the best doctor ever. It can tell me the things that my Western medicine doctors have not been able to tell me. The sort of the fix for the condition that I was in. So I would imagine that you started paying more attention to your dreams for this kind of information.
Yes, absolutely. And I believe the dreams, like they're like, hey, I hear you. Now you're communicating with us. Now you're listening to this other aspect. Because I use my dreams all the time for creative and spiritual growth and healing emotionally and family traumas, all that good stuff. And now it's speaking to me literally like related, literally and figuratively to my health. And so the dreams, of course, are like, okay, here you go. So, and more dreams started. There was another one that came shortly after that. Oh, and also I did figure out that I needed to have my gallbladder removed. So that happened around that time. And
were you led there by a dream?
I was not, but I knew, at that point, my health was I just felt bad all the time, and my stomach hurt, and lots of inflammation, lots of bloating, a real bad pain. So the body just kept ramping up of getting, worse symptoms, really painful symptoms. And so I did just go back to the doctor and say, keep looking, while I was listening to the dreams and taking their advice. Right.
So that, yeah. And even if you didn't have a specific dream, there was a process of learning to listen more closely to your body that then helped you to come to that realization that there was something more going on, and you pinpointed it to an issue with your gallbladder, and the solution to that was to have it removed.
Yes. And the dreams were very healing. They were so healing. Like even in that house with the limestone, it was a safe, healing place to be. And so the next dream that really hit me, and I was like, okay, now my dreams are literally telling me what to eat. I was in a pond with my best friend, Leah, who's the herbalist. And we're swimming, but it's not just any pond. It is a pond full of spring onion and cilantro and parsley and all these herbs growing in it like swamp, right? Or like a lotus flower growing out of the water. And we're swimming in it. And so I spoke to her about that dream, and at the time my stomach was hurting a lot. It was really bad. And she said, take all of those herbs and boil them and make a broth. And so I started making that broth, and my stomach pains would disappear.
Wow. Now we're getting into more direct advice. The dreams are like, okay, she's listening now. So let's reproduce elements of the previous scene. The immersion in the limestone, but now you're immersed in this broth. I mean, that's how you translated it. You actually took the things that you saw growing in the pond and decided that you were going to drink it.
Mm-hmm. And it is really good, by the way. It's very tasty. It's very soothing. So for anyone listening, if you
let's get that recipe. Let's get that recipe. Tell them right now. Go ahead.
Spring onion, cilantro, and parsley. and then just chop it all up and boil it. And the longer you boil it, it steeps more. So then it becomes really thick and it just coats your stomach and it will take away, any kind of I think it really helps with ulcers too. I did not have an ulcer, but it can help with ulcers, inflammation, stomach ache. So instead of taking Pepto-Bismol, you can just make your own broth.
Well, what a wonderful dream image, and the way that you pulled the information out of it and then took action with it. And it ended up being another message from your body that was, by heeding the message, your body then got what it needed, and you were relieved of the symptoms that you were experiencing.
Yeah.
Now, how has that continued for you? Are there any other examples from your dream life of applying the same sort of wisdom and advice?
Yes. So another one was I go to a farmer's market, but it's all carrots everywhere. And I'm like, okay. So, I'm there, right? I have to buy these carrots. Taking it into waking life, I start looking into, okay, vitamin K, vitamin A, but carrots. I think there was something else in that dream. There may have been another something. Maybe there were apples there or something, because I started juicing the carrots and apples. And through the research, again, it's which ones do you need to take together for your body to absorb, was what I was getting from it. Then there was another one with making a kale smoothie, all this kale. What was the kale one? Okay, yeah, I'm making smoothies from all the juice and greens. Chopped kale just comes falling out. And so, my body is telling me which foods to be eating and drinking, which is amazing. And when I do eat those foods, when I make a kale salad or put kale in my smoothies, it does not bother my stomach. It doesn't upset it. It always has some healing properties to it.
So it's giving you this specific advice. Go ahead. I was going to.
Yeah. No, the recent one that I just had this week, and I know it was leading up to this, is being with a group of people harvesting all these vegetables, and getting a text from the leader of our farm saying, pull as many vegetables as possible. The more, the better. Pull more than you think. And then the wheat, he said in the text. So our buckets were full of all these vegetables, and then just a layer of wheat on top. So that was the newest dream.
And what did you get from that? What was it telling you?
So one, I definitely think my dreams are telling me to go back and be a vegetarian. There's no meat in these dreams, right? It's your body needs vegetables. But that one specifically, it's there are foods that I still need. I need to pair these two foods together, but I need to eat as many vegetables as possible before maybe some of the carbohydrates or, yeah. And that's what that feels like to me. And then the other big dream I've been having, which I have not been able to work this or talk about it with anyone really, is the coffee dreams. I'm now dreaming of coffee all the time, but not just getting, my latte, which I do love a latte. But the dreams are showing me different ways to steep them. So one dream was soaking them in these ice cubes, and then at another one in a coffee shop, the coffee guy working is steeping them. It's always with cold water. So I'm really curious about what it's telling me about getting the nutrients from coffee out in a different way. Because right now I drink mostly black coffee. So Yeah. I'm like living with these coffee dreams right now too. Oh, one of the last dreams I had, there was all these coffee beans, but ground in like a big pile on the earth. And there was like nothing around. It was just this big pile of coffee beans, ground coffee beans. And they weren't mine. They are my friend Adam's coffee grounds in this huge pile. And I go to the pile and I just take them and start stuffing and chewing them in my mouth like it's chewing tobacco. And my whole mouth is full. I'm just chewing it and not swallowing it, just chewing it. And you can see it's like a mess. I'm like a little monster or something, just eating and not eating, but soaking them and getting getting the nutrients from them. And also I looked a little caffeine high, so I got this like monster look in my face because I'm just stuffing them in my mouth, but also probably the caffeine is probably making me a little crazy in that dream. But yeah, my friend Adam was just like standing there watching me do that. So, but having all these food dreams, right? I'm like, this is saying I need something from them. I did have one conversation with a friend who said how wonderful like coffee beans can be in compost, and like they help blueberries grow really, really well. So I've been adding more like blueberries when I drink my coffee instead of no food in the morning. And it does settle my stomach a little bit more. It's not just, a harsh cup of coffee in the morning.
Well, what a fascinating trend that you're seeing from now that we've got this collection of dreams that we can look at. The way that the information is presented by the dreams is you can pull out that there's a certain style to them, or there's a theme, like you're in the garden and there's carrots everywhere. You could look at that symbolically and wonder, well, we could go different directions with what a carrot could mean as a symbol. We could get all archetypal with it, but instead it's your body. It's telling you something. It's not coming from some other place or some other meaning. It's presenting the coffee grounds, the broth, the pond that you were in, with all these vegetables, and herbs growing in this environment. The same way with the carrots, they're actually growing out of the ground, right? The wheat. So there's a sort of a theme here where you can identify, now this is your type of dream, and it's presenting it to you in a way that resonates personally with you. So I don't know how much this can apply beyond that to what listeners can get from this. But what we're seeing here is a trend where when your dreams want to speak to something that your body is saying that it needs, it presents it to you in this certain way. And not just as that thing individually, it's not just carrots. No, you're going to need to, to make the carrot more bioavailable to you, you need to consume it in a certain way. So I found that to be really interesting, though, that you can pull this information out of it, but also step back and see the trend to go, okay, when my dreams present the information to me in a certain way, then I'm going to look more towards a literal interpretation of it. Not necessarily saying that you need to gorge on coffee grounds, but there might be something to that. See, you're acting out. You are an actor in the scene. Anytime you're in a dream, you can think of yourself as an actor playing a role. But the script, where does that come from? It's because there are things going on subconsciously that you understand. When you look at those coffee grounds and you're like, I'm going to stuff my face with these things, like you're doing something, shall we say, that's unusual from an ordinary perspective. But from the dream's perspective, it makes perfect sense. and you know subconsciously while you're dreaming why you are taking a certain action. So when there's these kind of unusual things that happen in dreams where you're like, well, well, why didn't I just take it and put it in a filter and brew some coffee if I really wanted, if I wanted some coffee, I could have done it the traditional way. But instead, I decided I'm going to dive in and I'm just going to, start filling myself up with these things, which, maybe increase your coffee consumption. That would probably be one thing that I would try from it.
Yeah. I read.
Maybe try some decaf.
Yeah. Well, I read actually like having 4 cups of coffee a day helps with depression. Like,
yeah.
I really find it fascinating that my dreams are showing me exactly what my body needs. And I didn't know those things. Like how do we, have these powerful dreams that show us exactly what we need?
Yeah. Where does that come from? Because some of the information that you've gotten from your dreams is, I'll just say it's kind of obscure. It's not what you read in mainstream medical advice. And unless you were already a nutritionist or an herbalist or something, you wonder, well, if this information is not something that's in my memory already because I've encountered it somewhere, then where is it coming from? The body is telling you that it needs a certain mix of combination of nutrients, and it's going to help with something, more energy, less depression, less inflammation. These are examples that you've already given from your dreams of things that were specifically health related. But how did your body know it to begin with? I mean, where is this information coming from? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Maybe it's because we are of the earth. Maybe this body, memory, knows. It just knows because it's in our cells and in our DNA. I mean, that's all I got because I have not studied nutrition or herbalism. Sure, I talk about the healthy ways, but I knew nothing of the limestone, right? That information came from another source. And so if it's the body speaking to me, saying what it needs, I mean, I guess the body just, it knows because it has this innate wisdom.
And maybe has the ability to tap into a collective body of knowledge. That's through all the people who've ever lived. The information, the knowledge that they gain can be, there's a sort of a theory that there is a thing called the noosphere that is it's almost like a collective entity, a mental, it's like a big brain in a sense of all of humanity, and all of the knowledge and information, the sort of the collective consciousness that we've put together becomes its own being, its own entity. It has an aliveness and awareness to it that's all of us, and it acts like a brain. We are all the little cells in the brain, and there's these neural networks, which is sort of the ways that our consciousness links up together, and information can travel along that from mind to mind without having to have direct contact. So if someone in the world knows that there is a certain nutrient, food, combination of foods and nutrients that can help with a certain medical condition or health condition, then that information, your dreaming mind has the ability to be able to tap into the noosphere and grab that information and pull it into your individual awareness or consciousness. So you don't have to, your body, you don't have to have been exposed to the information directly, which there's a kind of the theory, when you look more into the hard science theories of dreaming, they say that everything that you dream about has to be pulled somehow from your own memory. And I think that what's missing from that picture is that there is a collective memory, but we don't know the mechanism for how it's accessed. So it can't get, even though there's evidence for it, the kind of mainstream science won't accept the larger idea that there is a collective mind or body of knowledge that we can tap into to pull into ourselves, whether it's through a dream or it's an intuition or a vision that comes to you or something like that. Yeah, I find it really fascinating the way that the information can be brought to you through means that are not conventional, for lack of better words. Like if it's not in your memory, then what is your body mind grabbing from to give you this specific information that would make a nutritionist envious with some of the insights and specific combinations that your dreams came up with, to tell you how to address some of these health related things, questions, issues that were on your mind at the time, even making you aware of things that you weren't aware of yourself. There are these dreams that are known as prodromal dreams that they make you aware of conditions that are developing in your body before you are consciously aware of them, before they've even shown up perhaps on a medical test, a blood test or a X-ray or ultrasound or something like that. It goes all the way back to Aristotle. There's writings where he said that the conditions that develop in the body can be shown to us in our sleep. They show up in our sleep before they've actually shown up in waking ordinary life. Artemidorus, too, wrote this 5-volume, it's like the oldest writing that we have about dream interpretation. It's from like the 2nd century AD. And in it, he talks quite a bit about the ways that dreams can tell us what's going on with our health and with our body before it's actually manifested. So there's this sort of detection system in the body that talks to us through our dreams, and it regularly provides updates. Whether or not there's something, brewing, an illness or a disease or sickness or something that, it's just updates. This is happening every night, every time that you dream. The body is running all of these fascinating processes that a lot of them only happen while asleep, and some of them only happen while dreaming, such as when the brain cleans house. It doesn't have a lymphatic system. So while you're dreaming, what happens is that the blood vessels open up to allow cerebrospinal fluid to go down into the brain, and it kind of acts as a washing machine. Like the cerebrospinal fluid is the laundry detergent mixed with the water, and it gets into the nooks and crannies of the brain and pulls out the waste proteins and then removes them, because the brain doesn't have any other way of removing them, like traditionally, like the way that the blood is cleansed with the lymphatic system. So they found that so this leads to a really fascinating correlation between Alzheimer's and sleep deprivation, insomnia. It's one of the things that they found a lot of people who develop Alzheimer's, it begins with, they also have had insomnia. So they're not getting the sleep that they need so that their body can run this critical process for cleaning the brain. This is one example of many of the things that are happening in our sleep. You're very biologically active while you're dreaming. Your body is running a lot of processes that it needs for rejuvenation and revitalization. And when you don't get enough sleep, and specifically enough deep dreaming, then these processes don't have a chance to run or to complete, and it can start to lead to issues for you. Memory gets fogged over time. Memory can get, your brain can start getting clogged up with these waste proteins that are characteristic of Alzheimer's and dementia. But we also wanted to go into how this fits into a picture of overall well-being. That you were telling me as we were getting ready for this interview that you felt like it wasn't just specifically about specific things with your health that your dreams were addressing. They were also speaking to the idea that you needed to have your optimal energy and health so that you could live your life in the way that you wanted to live it. So it's fitting this into a larger picture of your overall health and well-being. And it began with health. You have all these ambitions for the things that you would like to do and accomplish. You have a to-do list. You wake up in the morning and, you want to be creative. You want to be productive. Well, what does that begin with? Mm-hmm. Well, 4 cups of coffee might help. But the overall, having some blueberries with your coffee, now you've got more nutrition and it's coming together in the right way that's providing you with what? The energy that you need to be able to do the things that you want to be able to do. So can you speak to that larger picture of what the dreams have been painting for you? Can you pick up with that?
Yeah, sure. When doing that deep dive with Etya that started a few years ago, we were both rebranding and building another layer to our businesses, because I was dream reading and coaching and but also working nonprofit jobs and doing this, website work and things like that. And I do have goals and ambitions and I dream of building. Right now, I'm building specifically an online portal for teachers and guides to be able to teach students and individuals. It's called the Matriorg. And so a few years ago, the dreams were just being just seeding, right? Like they were just beginning to drop these seeds of what this platform is now is. It's almost to fruition 3 years later. But I did not have the vitality and the health that I needed to really step into that role as a leader, as a CEO of this platform, as a healer, as a guide. If my own health was not well, right? I really felt diseased. How am I supposed to show up and do it for other people? And I was constantly fighting the fatigue and elements of always being tired. There's only so much that inspiration can take you when your physical body doesn't go when it doesn't have the capacity, right? Yeah. So those health dreams, I believe, came up to say, if you want any of that, to really feel it and embody it and not only make it happen, but fully embody being in it and with it and all of these aspects that it can give to your life to help you, feel abundant in my health, in my spiritual life, in my career life, in my business life, and even my relationship, right? Or all my relationships. I needed to take the action to better my physical well-being.
Yeah, that's the foundation of the house.
Yes.
That's the gas in the car. And I use these metaphors because this is the way that dreams speak to us. And we can start looking for the content in our dreams that speak to things such as, if you're looking for a gas station to fill up your tank, that's okay. Look at that as a metaphor. I mean, what would you think if someone came to you in a dream and they said, yeah, I was driving along in my dream and I was looking for a gas station and I looked at the fuel gauge and I realized that it was close to empty. You see the metaphor in that?
Yeah, exactly.
Your tank.
Your tank is so empty. Yeah, exactly. You got to fill it up.
In one of my dreams, and we talked about this on an episode a while back, I kept dreaming about buffets. This has been a recurring theme in my dreams. I dream about these food buffets. And so there's two themes that have emerged from this. One is that I think to myself when I see the buffet, I'm like, oh, all you can eat. I'm going to get as much as I can get now, baby. Like, this is, you don't want me, like at the all you can eat sushi place, they don't want to see 160-pound Jason walking in the door because they're thinking, yeah, we're going to turn a profit on that guy. And, my sixth plate of sushi later, I'm looking like I want to say a samurai, but the Japanese wrestler guys. So I'm looking like one of those guys rolling out of the sushi place,
sumo wrestlers.
Yeah, sumo, because I'm going to make sure, man, I'm going to get my money's worth when I'm there. And there's kind of this idea of, you're at a buffet and you're making choices about your food, but there's also the idea of abundance, which is a term that you said that word earlier, and it triggered me to think of the buffet because a lot of them are overflowing with, prime rib and, just like really nice. These are nice buffets, some of them at least, they're really loaded up with stuff. We're not talking about that, Wendy's salad bar, we're talking about good stuff. But then I'll find myself going over and like grabbing a pastry, the quick, easy, convenient choices. And it doesn't necessarily reflect my dietary choices. I found that food in my dreams has a lot to do with the things that I consume in the sense of allowing into myself, the sort of mental, spiritual things that I consume or that I take in. And the mouth is sort of a boundary between the inner and the outer. So inner world inside the body, outer world outside, and the mouth is the boundary between them. And so it speaks to the things that I allow into myself or not. I can be like, yeah, I don't want that pastry today. Was that something, now I'm looking at the pastry as a symbol for something that's, maybe it looks appealing on the outside, but I know that it lacks substance. That would be something I would associate with a pastry. I mean, I trust me, I love my pastries, right? And I head down to the, the bakery and I'll indulge in my, whatever donut or carrot cake or coffee cake or something like that, or a pastry. But I know that there's an association in the back of my mind between that and making sort of the things that lack substance for me. And if we think about the things that we take in, like substance means authenticity and truth. If you think of it in terms of like, if I read someone's book and they've got information in there, they've got knowledge, and I take that and now it's kind of in the waiting room because I don't necessarily believe it right off the bat, or I don't necessarily absorb or or shall we say digest the information, the knowledge. I'm going to go through a process of testing it. of tasting it. And I go, well, how does this sit with me? Here's Eckhart Tolle, who's telling me that there's, just to use him as an example of someone who I've read and watched his video, I've read his books, watched his videos with interest. And I go, this guy has some really interesting things to say about the inner life. Now, how does that sit with me?
Mm-hmm.
How does it taste? Can I try it out? Is this something that's going to become more of a part of me? Meaning that something that Eckhart has taught in his book or his video is going to absorb into me, and I'm going to make it part of myself, which is very much, God, the food metaphors. You eat something, it becomes part of you, it becomes part of your body. Or does it just pass right through you, like without being absorbed, without making much of an impact on you, without becoming part of you? So I find that these metaphors are very present in dreams that are related to food and eating, and they really have nothing to do with the physical body. But if we take the metaphor of the body further to speak to the emotional body, the spiritual body, the perceptive, there's like a perceptual body. And I think it goes even further that we are, as human beings, that we are this amalgamation, this combination of things, that the body, the physical body, is just one expression of this multi-layered being. There's a mental body, and we know about emotional body, but I think it goes even further. They might say that there's an ethereal body, some part of ourself that can carry our consciousness, but it's not physical in the sense of being physical matter. It's more of an energetic body. And there are some people who, and we've had a lot of them on our show, who say that they have experienced things in dreams and in altered states of consciousness where they left their physical body, even turned around and looked at it on the bed and said, oh, hey, there I am sleeping. But here I am across the room looking at myself, my body sleeping. So what am I now? I'm this form of consciousness. And now I can, if I choose to, I can have experiences separate of my physical body, but I'm still the same person. I have an awareness of myself as a conscious being who's now separated from my body and experiencing things outside of it. So out of body experience, astral travel, astral projection. The point of it being that the body, the way that dreams can speak to the body, the physical body is just one layer of it. And that there are these other bodies that are combined together into it that can also experience things from their own ways and their own perspectives. I don't know if you've experienced that or not, but I think that it's a really fascinating
It's making
subject.
me think of, when you were talking about the inner outer, like I think about food. When I used to just look at food in dreams symbolically, like if I was dreaming of cupcakes, I'm like, oh, well, that brings me joy. So what in my life do I need more joy, right? It didn't have anything to do with like the physical act of eating a cupcake. But I've been thinking a lot about the coffee dreams, right? And nourishment, right? So there was one dream that there's a line of these older women in line at a coffee shop, and I know the barista, and he's a friend, and I'm at the other edge of the counter. So there's a counter between me and him, but then the line of women are kind of like off to the left, standing closer to him. So there's this barrier, right? Because I'm on one side of the counter and they're all on the other. And I'm next for my coffee order, and he ignores me. And he takes one of the older women, he takes her order, he gets her coffee. And so now I'm getting a little impatient, and also like, he's also my friend. Why aren't you, giving me my coffee? And so I kind of stand up on the counter, And me and the next woman in line, we ordered the same thing at the same time. And we order a latte with oat milk. And he goes, no oat milk. And we both say almond milk at the same time. And I started looking at that dream through the lens of nourishment. There's this line of women waiting to, have nourishment. And I say nourishment because of milk, the context of milk, right? Like mother's milk. So I'm curious to know if all those older women are in line waiting to be nourished, and me as well, we're ordering the same thing. There's something about talking together so the nourishment we actually need is to be talking together.
Yeah. And, and just to throw it's a great insight that you've pulled out of that. Just the fact that you are together and you speak at the same time as the other lady, and even transition to saying almond milk, it's like there's this idea of exchange or being on the same wavelength, which is something you discover when you're in conversation with people and you're finishing each other's sentences, or their ideas are kind of coming into you, you're absorbing it, and then you're having an exchange with them by taking what they've told you and then conversing. You're giving back your like something that it's now filtered through your own being, and you're giving it back to them. So you have that going on. You have the idea of filtering, because coffee filters, coffee gets filtered through it. But here is the thing that I thought was, does it have something to do with your lineage? Because you're standing in line and lineage, and it brought me back to the conversation we had before before going live with hitting record and going live with this. You were talking about how that some of the things that you've dealt with your health comes down to you through your lineage, and the women in your family have had some of the same health challenges that you have.
Yes, absolutely. I am currently looking into more of my genetics regarding what types of food that I should be eating. My family suffers from obesity as well as having diabetes, the gallbladder. Both my parents had their gallbladder removed. I now have high cholesterol. They have high cholesterol. It runs in the family. And that has been a huge part of my life, of not only emotionally and mentally separating myself and individuating of I don't have to take care of myself the same way that they have. But recognizing there are so many things that are genetic with our bodies. And it's almost like if I don't eat right for my own, not just body type, but my genetics, I'm not going to figure it out until I figure that out. So there's definitely some layers there of being able to separate myself and say, okay, I'm not them. And at the same time, we have the same, the chemical makeup. So,
you and the woman next to you are both, ordering at the same time and ordering the same thing, and you get the same message from the barista. And I found you had the other dream with the guy who texts you when you're with the carrots and the wheat. And it's I found that this type of character appears in dreams as sort of a representative of the body or organs of the body or systems of the body to be able to deliver information. And so I would look at that barista character and go, there's a reason why he said no oat milk. So, and then you both of you say almond milk. Now, if I was in a place ordering coffee and they didn't have oat milk, I would be like, well, do you have almond milk? Because I know better than to put real dairy, cow dairy into my coffee. It just makes the curdle. And it's a bad combination, but we've been sold on this idea that we got to have our milk or our half and half or whatever in our coffee. And it's like, that's a terrible idea. But it makes me wonder, if you know in the dream that there's a good reason why they're out of oat milk, that maybe a better combination with your coffee is with almond milk instead. The nutrient profile mixes together better for you specifically, and for your lineage, going back into the genetics. You're with these other women, he's serving them first, meaning that they've come before you. Lineage, they're older than you. They've come before you. They had to make the same choices about diet, but it appears from they didn't have the same information that you did. Your mothers and grandmothers and great grandmothers, and that they grew up in a different time and place. I mean, the whole idea of, you're from Michigan, right? And the whole idea of oat milk would probably, they'd be like, girl, you need to be exercised because you got some kind of devil in you thinking that oat milk is, who would ever want to milk an oat? You can milk a cow, but you can't milk an oat. Okay. So just get that whole idea out of your head. And
I know. I don't think the coffee shops even have like the choices there.
Yeah. You walk into a Saginaw, Michigan and try to order an oat milk latte, you get kicked out. But yeah, it seems that now we're seeing another theme for the way that your dreams are delivering this information. It can choose a certain type of character to bring, like it's the barista in the one dream, it's the guy who owns the farm in the other dream. It could be a waiter, waitress type of character. It could be a chef. I found that to be pretty common in dreams that are speaking to food choices. A chef character is a great one to play that role. A chef would be someone that you would trust to know how to put food together in the right way, it's so that it's tasty and delicious, and also, it's also nutritious. So we're seeing this theme, a sort of a pattern emerge from all these dreams that you've shared with us, of the ones that speak more to what your body wants. But then we know that there are these other types of dreams that can use the same imagery, but take it and put it into a different kind of story. And now I can speak to things such as how you are nourishing yourself, what you are allowing to become part of you, how something sits with you. The food sits in your stomach, right? And that idea of something, if it sits well with you, we say that if it sits well with you, it means that you agree with it. You pull it into you, and there's this sort of like a tasting process that says, yeah, this is good for me. So whether that's some kind of bit of teaching or a bit of knowledge that you've encountered, it's the relationship. Is it nourishing you or is it not? We can take this off into many different directions symbolically, and being able to differentiate the one type of dream from the other, it would be something important to do. We still don't know if your coffee dream, where you had the mound of coffee, this abundance of ground coffee, and you're, gobbling that stuff down. We don't know if it means, should you drink more coffee? Or is there something else to that dream that was maybe speaking to something else about you? Maybe just giving yourself the freedom to indulge. I picture myself in that scene, and there's a big mound of coffee, and I know that I came from a background that taught me waste not, want not, Jason, take only what you need, and I've been learning that there's this other side of life that is abundant, and that I can, I'm allowed to go back for seconds and thirds. I'm allowed to have my, I don't have to just slice off a little thin piece of cake. I can have the whole damn cake if I want it. And that means that in a larger sense, it's not just about eating cake. This is a metaphor for how much I'm allowing myself to pull from life, because life is it's this cornucopia. It's the endless buffet. You make decisions about what it is that you're going to take from life, that if you have it programmed into your mind that you only deserve so much, oh, don't have too much, because then you're being wasteful, or do you deserve more? And so deserve and dessert, kind of go hand in hand. And now I'm looking at a buffet full of desserts and I'm going, I don't know if I'm allowed. Is this okay? Maybe I should just sneak one off and wrap it in a napkin and stuff it in my pocket, and then I can eat the crumbs later. Like it very much goes into, sort of beliefs and perceptions and mental attitudes and stuff like that, so
these dreams definitely have gotten me to a place of like allowing myself to be my own doctor. Like they know better than myself, and they know better than my primary care doctor. And so if I really listen, and which the dreams know that I'm listening, but continuing honoring them and saying, okay, eat this, take this supplement, mix it with this, do this. I really do believe they're giving me the right information to a healthier, more vital way of living.
Well, you definitely have the proof, the proof in the pudding, and you've got the pudding and you've got the proof, because you've applied the things that you learned from your dreams and recognized that it wasn't just a metaphor or a symbol, that there was actually a more literal message in some of those dreams, that you took that. And the only way you could find out is by experimenting and seeing that when you did certain things like the broth, you made the broth that, from the pond that you were in, and you took those ingredients, put it together, made a broth out of it, and voila. I mean, look what happens. Your body responds and says, thank you. That's exactly what I needed. Thank you for getting the message. Now, we mentioned earlier, the prodromal dreams that can warn of things that are developing in the body, sometimes years ahead of time. But it hasn't manifested yet. You don't even have a symptom yet, but you're already dreaming about it in ways that have made you aware that are trying to make you aware of a developing condition. Sigmund Freud had what was called the Irma dream. It's one of his most famous dream interpretations. In fact, his entire edifice of psychoanalytic theory was based off of this dream that he had, where he had a patient named Irma, and it was his real patient. And but now he's referring to her in the dream, and he's talking with another doctor who's there with him, who's also it was one of his colleagues, like a real person from his life. And in fact, the night before the dream, he had been like playing cards and smoking cigars with this colleague of his and talking about his patient Irma. And so in the dream, his colleague said, well, she seems to be doing better, but I don't think she's been quite cured. Freud had diagnosed her with hysteria. And so he then has a dream that he's inspecting her throat, and like him and the other doctor are like looking at the throat, and there's a reference to like giving her an injection. And Freud says, well, you see, it's actually your fault because of the injection, and this is why there's this developing condition in her throat. Well, what was happening at the time, Sigmund Freud died of throat cancer, and he had it for 15 years. But I mean, he was from before he died, he had it for a long time, and he went through some surgeries and some very painful procedures. And they think that it was because of his cigar habit. Well, it turns out that the combination of what nicotine and the ingredients in tobacco when you smoke it causes this acid to develop in the mouth, and that acid can then become what leads to the cancer. So it's the diagnosis that Sigmund Freud missed, and it's by Robert Moss, and he has it on one of his blogs online. So if anyone's interested in that, he also has it in his book, The Secret History of Dreaming. It's a really fascinating case where one of the most famous people in all of dream psychology may have actually misinterpreted his own dream, and the dream was actually trying to warn him. It was a prodromal dream that was actually trying to warn him of the developing condition. But for people who've out there are a lot of stories similar to this. One of them is Dreams That Can Save Your Life, which was co-authored by Larry Burke, who's a medical doctor who has been looking into these prodromal dreams and the ways that you can use dreams as a basis for diagnosing conditions. This is being accepted now also in sleep science because of the way that sleep apnea and obstructive conditions in the airway can show up in dream content. And there are actually ways of mixing them, of using dream content as a guide for, for diagnosing sleep apnea and other conditions. So what I wanted to do is read to you something from a friend of the show, Ryan Hurd. He's been a guest on the show, and as I was researching for our interview today, he has something on dreamstudies.org that is speaks to about dreams that warn about things that are developing with the health. So if you don't mind, I'd like to read to you what he says here.
I love that.
Yeah. Okay. So let me do this. He says that listening to warning dreams can save your life, so it's important to know what to look for. Unfortunately, we often notice these warnings long after the dream sounds its alarm. Hello, Sigmund Freud. And the last thing I want to promote is a sense of paranoia about our dreams. So here are some tips for recognizing possible prodromal dreams. And this is based on pioneering work from Patricia Garfield, who is a psychologist and is famous in the field of dream work. He says, number one, keep a dream journal. It's essential for remembering more dreams as well as tracking similar dreams over time. Your coffee dreams, you're being able to track them because you're keeping them in your journal, and you're now starting to see the larger picture that the dreams are painting for you. Number two, watch out for repetitive dreams, especially unpleasant ones. Nightmares are dreams that are screaming for attention. So a lot of nightmares, this is me saying I've experienced with helping people with nightmares, that sometimes they're related to conditions of the body more so than like psychological conditions, as is often thought of, that, oh, you're having nightmares because, of some kind of a mental disturbance. Well, no, it could be a message from the body. Often the imagery of repetitive nightmares will become more clear as the emotional intensity increases, practically demanding that you acknowledge something that you really don't want to look at. Edgar Cayce said that a lot of nightmares can be caused because of bad diet, and that nightmares went away when people changed their diet over to cleaner, healthier foods. And this was many decades ago when he was talking about this. So you can only imagine now with the sort of fast food culture and the way that our food system has been abused, the chemicals and stuff that we're taking into our bodies because of these processed foods and stuff. It's really, you can imagine that there's a lot of bad dreams that are happening as a result. So back to Ryan, he says that prodromal dreams can speak in metaphors and symbols. The most common symbol for the body is a house or structure. Where does the action of the dream take place? Such as on the top floor, can be a symbol for the head, or in the bathroom, a symbol for the bowels or kidneys. In modern society, the car also can be a common sign for the body. Engine trouble, difficulty accelerating, blown tires. The metaphors for prodromal dreams are usually very simple, but may be peculiar to you alone. After all, the dream is speaking your imaginal language. Number 4, I found this to be wild. Vampires bite your throat and dogs tear at your intestines. Anytime a series of dreams repeatedly exposes, claws at, hurts, or bites a part of your body, that is a sign for attention. He talks earlier in the article about a man who was dreaming about dogs biting at his stomach, and 3 months later, he was diagnosed with intestinal cancer. Also, be aware of when animals bite at your hands. I have found that this is often a sign to be more aware about what comes next. So, animals biting at your hands is a sign that something you need to be on your toes, because something is about to enter your life that's very important, and you need to be like super, just aware of that there is something important about to happen. No one away. It was a physical expression of something deeper that was going on in her emotionally, spiritually, psychologically. So we've given our listeners this wonderful, we've laid out the buffet, the cornucopia of overflowing information and knowledge in this interview. And Angela, I want to thank you for sharing so much about yourself and your life, to be so open with yourself. And I think this is going to do a lot of good for a lot of people. Before we go, you help people with these kinds of issues now. I mean, your experience has made you into a dream worker, and you do other things too. So is there a place online where people can connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been such a pleasure being able to get to know you more and talk to you about all these dreams. I mean, it's just been so informative and impactful for me. It's like having one big dream session. So thanks, Jason.
Yes.
And I am so happy to be able to share this information. When it was time to choose which dreams to talk about, I was like, well, these food dreams are so important, because I know other men and women are suffering from a lot of dis-ease from maybe the foods that they eat and toxins in our body. And hopefully others will get something from it in order to get from their own dreams that might be speaking to them around their health or, emotional well-being, mental, physical, all the good stuff. So yeah, you can find me at my name, AngelaGrillo.com. So that's where I have about my coaching and dream work. And then I am also launching matriorg.com, which
Spell
will be
that.
launching MATRIORG.
Matriorg. Gotcha.
Matriorg. Yeah. And that is a new online platform for teachers and being able to bring all their amazing wisdom with all different practices and bringing community together. And then I do have a workshop that I'm co-facilitating beginning Saturday, April 6th. It begins and goes for 5 weeks every other Saturday. I'm co-facilitating with Julie Corin. She's an expressive arts somatic practitioner from Los Angeles. And it's called Between Movement, Memoir, and the Mythic. So it's a writing, movement, and performance workshop. Well, laboratory, we call it. And we've been working on that. So that, along with the Matriorg, will be launching soon. And it feels really good to be able to step into those really big visions and offer it to our community.
And you can credit your dreams in so many ways for helping to make that happen, including helping you to restore your health so that you could take on these big things, and you had the energy and the stamina and the well-being to be able to do it. So wonderful story, Angela. Thank you for sharing it with us. And I wish you well and best of luck with all these endeavors.
Thank you so much, Jason. Thank you. And Stephen, and the dreams that shape us.
Oh, my body, how do you hold the immaculate conscious experience I have the privilege to behold. Oh, my heart, how are you home to all the precious, tender being of a human soul? In all of my striving, in all my attempts to belong, I have looked right past you. You've been here all along, deep carrier of my spirit. How sweet is my return. How fully embraced I am by you. It's all I've ever yearned. How hard it is you've worked. How dutiful you've been. How poorly I have treated my spirit's most loyal friend. And when this world feels so cold, I'll look no further than my flesh to find all of my belonging here till the day we part in death. Well, thank you everyone for listening to another episode of the Dreams That Shape Us podcast. I am your co-host, Steve Ernenwein, and on behalf of J.M. DeBoard, we would both like to thank you so deeply for being here with us. It really means a lot to both of us that we have such a beautiful community of people who care about dreams, who care about people's lived human lives and the stories that they have to tell, and the way that the dreams aid us in shaping the possibilities of who and what we can become. What an amazing testament to just how gorgeous this process is and how interwoven it is with us psychically and also bodily. The marriage between the spirit and the flesh. And how revolutionary it has been for me to work on this episode and to recognize and truly honor and appreciate how beautiful that marriage truly is. So, thank you, Angela, for sharing your story and for it really reaching in and touching me deeply. And I hope that it touched all of you deeply as well. So, we'll see you next month. All of Angela's information will be in the show notes. We love you all. Thank you so much.